My husband and his mistress smirked as they ordered me to leave my own home, a dimly lit bedroom. The air is thick with tension, the weight of unspoken words pressing down like a heavy storm. Alina stands near the closet, her hands trembling as she folds the last of her clothing. The woman who once felt safe within these walls is now an unwelcome guest in her own home. The faint hum of the city outside contrasts with the silence between the three people in the room. Behind her, Daniel leans against the headboard, his expression void of regret. Vanessa, draped in one of Alina's silk robes, watches with amusement, her manicured fingers twirling a glass of red wine. Alina doesn't need to hear the words again, but Daniel says them anyway, savoring the cruelty. "You heard me. Take your things and get out." His voice is calm, almost indifferent. The love they once shared has been replaced with something colder than hatred. Apathy. Alina swallows hard, willing herself to stay composed. Her gaze flickers to Vanessa, who smirks and crosses her legs as if she's settling in for a show. "It's not your home anymore," Vanessa chimes in, her voice dripping with mockery. Alina's fingers tighten around the fabric in her hands. She fights back the burning in her throat, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. She zips the suitcase, her movements controlled and deliberate. She doesn't argue. She doesn't scream. Instead, she straightens her back, casting one last look at the room she once called hers. The walls echo with memories, late-night whispers, laughter, love that had turned to dust. Without a word, she walks out. The hallway seems longer than before. Every step is heavier, her heels clicking against the marble floor. As she descends the grand staircase, her vision blurs for a moment, but she keeps walking. The mansion looms behind her as she reaches the driveway, where her car waits like a silent accomplice. The night air is cool against her skin, but the fire inside her burns hotter. She loads her bags into the trunk, each movement deliberate. The house she built, the love she nurtured, it was all gone in an instant. But this wasn't the end. Not for her. As she slides into the driver's seat, she exhales sharply, steadying herself. The silence of the car wraps around her, offering a brief moment of solitude. Then, with a single calculated breath, she picks up her phone and dials a number. "It's done," she says, her voice steady. "Start now." A flicker of something crosses her face, not despair, not grief. Something stronger. The game was far from over. She pulls away from the mansion, leaving behind not just a house, but a past that no longer belonged to her. The battle had begun, and Alina wasn't about to lose. The drive is long and quiet, but her mind is loud. She replays the last few months in her head, the distant gazes, the missed calls, the whispers that suddenly stopped when she entered a room. She had felt it, the unraveling of her marriage, but she had been too afraid to face it. Until now. She stops at a red light, fingers gripping the wheel. A billboard catches her attention, an advertisement for a divorce attorney. The irony isn't lost on her, but Alina doesn't smile. Not yet. Her phone buzzes. A message from Mira, her lawyer. "Mira, I have the documents ready. Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Alina takes a deep breath. Her hands are steady now, her heart no longer racing. She types back a single word. "Alina, yes." She tosses the phone onto the passenger seat and drives into the night, leaving behind not just a house, but a life that was never truly hers. Alina Carter had lost everything, or so they thought. Alina drives through the city, her grip firm on the wheel. The sting of betrayal is fresh, but it fuels her, hardening her resolve. She takes a sharp turn into an underground parking lot and pulls into a secluded spot. A black SUV waits in the shadows, headlights off. As she steps out, the driver's door opens and Mira emerges, sharp as ever in a tailored suit. "They don't know yet," Mira says, her voice edged with satisfaction. Alina shakes her head. "Not yet, but they will soon." Mira hands her a thick envelope. The financial transfer is done. Every last asset Daniel thought he had access to, gone. Alina takes the envelope, the weight of it reassuring. Every transaction, every account she had access to, she had drained them legally, cleanly. Daniel had spent years underestimating her, assuming she would always be the quiet, obedient wife. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Daniel and Vanessa celebrate their victory. Vanessa reclines on the velvet chaise lounge, sipping champagne from a crystal flute. "I still can't believe she just left," she muses, stretching lazily. "I thought she'd at least make a scene." Daniel smirks, pouring himself another drink. She was always predictable. Just then, his phone vibrates. He picks it up, his face shifting from amusement to confusion. A notification from his bank. Then another. And another. Transaction alert. Account closed. Insufficient funds. His grip tightens around the glass. Vanessa notices his expression and sits up. "What's wrong?" Daniel doesn't answer. He scrolls, his hands shaking. His savings, his investments, even the business account, frozen. Then an email appears. Legal notice, property ownership update. The blood drains from his face as he reads. The mansion, the house he had so confidently claimed, never legally transferred to his name. Vanessa leans over his shoulder, scanning the email. "What the hell is this?" she snaps. Before he can respond, the doorbell rings. The sound is sharp, urgent. Daniel stumbles to his feet and makes his way to the door, pulse hammering. He yanks it open. Two uniformed officers stand on the doorstep, their expressions unreadable. Behind them, a group of legal aides. "Mr. Daniel Carter," one officer asks, "we have an order for immediate vacating of this property." Vanessa shoots up from the couch. "No, this is a mistake. We live here now." The officer doesn't flinch. "According to the deed, this house legally belongs to Alina Carter." Daniel's hands curl into fists. His world tilts as reality crashes down on him. His empire, his life was crumbling. And Alina? She was the one pulling the strings now. The mansion feels different now. Empty, silent, the grand walls stripped of their earlier warmth. The echo of footsteps reverberates in the grand hallway, each step an inescapable reminder of what had been lost and what would never return. Daniel stands in the center of the living room, his phone gripped in a death-like hold. His hands tremble as he scrolls through the endless notifications. The bank alerts, the legal updates, the eviction notice. Everything slipping away. His empire, his control, the life he had stolen from Alina, now shattered in an instant. Vanessa stands beside him, silent now, her earlier smirk replaced with a look of desperation. "We have to fix this," she murmurs, but her voice lacks conviction. The same cruel confidence she once wore so easily has crumbled. They are both victims of their own hubris. Daniel doesn't reply at first. His mind races, his thoughts tangled in a web of panic and anger. How could this have happened? He thought she would be weak, a shadow of the woman she once was, incapable of fighting back. But she had done the unthinkable. She had outsmarted him. He forces the thought aside and focuses on the next move. "Call my lawyer," he orders, his voice sharper now. "Tell him to get on this." I want that property back. I want my life back. Vanessa opens her mouth to protest, but closes it just as quickly. There's no time for hesitation. They need to act, and act fast. They move toward the door, but before they can reach it, the doorbell rings again. This time, it's not just the sound of a simple knock. It feels final, as if the universe itself is offering them no escape. Daniel's eyes narrow. Who could it be this time? A last-ditch effort to torment him? He opens the door, and standing there in stark contrast to his world of chaos is a small group of movers. Without waiting for him to speak, the head mover offers a polite smile. Mr. Carter, we've been instructed to move out all personal belongings. Daniel's jaw clenches. What? Move out what? This is my house. He takes a step forward, his voice rising. The head mover doesn't flinch. This is Alina Carter's house, sir. The order is from the court. We're just doing our job. Reality hits him harder than anything before. The walls, once symbols of his control, now echo with his helplessness. He stares at the movers, their unbothered faces betraying no emotion. This was happening. There was no escape. His world had crumbled, and the pieces were being taken away, piece by piece. Inside, Vanessa stands frozen, her hands trembling at her sides. This wasn't part of the plan. None of it was. Meanwhile, Alina drives into the night, a steely calm settling over her. With each mile that separates her from the mansion, the heat of anger that had fueled her moves begins to fade, replaced by something deeper, something more profound. She had fought back, but now the hard part was over. Now it was about finding herself again. She reaches her destination, an unassuming office building tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. She parks and steps out of the car, her heels clicking steadily as she walks toward the entrance. Inside, Mira awaits, a quiet smile tugging at her lips. Well, that's one hell of a way to settle a score, Mira says as Alina enters, offering her a glass of water. Alina takes it, savoring the coldness against her palm. I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot. Mira raises an eyebrow, intrigued. What's next? Alina exhales slowly. I take control of what's mine. The business, the assets, the future. They think they can take everything from me? They'll soon realize that they underestimated me in ways they'll never understand. She sips the water, her eyes hardening with the resolve that had always been there, buried under years of silent sacrifice. This is just the beginning. Back at the mansion, the movers continue their work, each item taken away as Daniel and Vanessa watch, powerless to stop it. Vanessa's face has gone pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. This is insane, she mutters. We had everything. Everything was ours. Daniel slams his fist into the wall, frustration and fury flashing across his face. No, this can't be happening. The officers watch him, unfazed, as they begin to escort him out of the property. Sir, you're required to vacate immediately. All personal belongings must be cleared. Vanessa grabs his arm. This isn't over, Daniel. We'll fight this. We'll get it all back. Daniel wrenches his arm from her grasp. No, it's over. We don't have anything left. It's all gone. Vanessa looks at him, finally understanding that the man she thought she could manipulate is no longer the person she thought he was. He is broken, and she is left with nothing. As Daniel stands on the doorstep, his mind whirls with the devastation, the emptiness of it all. Alina had won. She had taken everything. And now, there was nothing left to hold on to. The life he thought was his, the woman he thought he had controlled, had slipped away, and nothing would ever be the same again. Alina sits in her new office, a quiet smile playing at her lips as she looks out over the city. She knows what she's done, and she knows what's coming next. Daniel and Vanessa thought they had won, but she had always been playing a different game. This was her redemption, her victory, and it was only the beginning.